Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me as always, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's going on is we're going to maybe rush through this, make this a little bit of a quick one so we can go watch The Last of Us Season 2 premiere, but we also have a lot of games to talk about this week, hence my video games are cool shirt. We're going to be talking, Cameron has been playing Eternal Strands and has completed Eternal Strands. I rolled credits on Blueprints, which does not mean I'm done with the game. In fact, I rolled credits last night and spent all of today playing it more and more, as there's still much more to uncover. And then we're probably about halfway through Split Fiction in the co-op journey that Cameron and I are playing, that will probably start going out on the YouTube channel this week, as we've been recording our Let's Plays for that. So stay tuned for that, but we're going to have kind of our initial thoughts on Split Fiction to round things out today. So yeah, if you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. But kick us off, Cameron, with some Eternal Strands goodness. This is a game I know you've been playing for a little while. We just haven't been able to actually connect and chat about it, in part because 2 weeks ago we didn't do a podcast. Last week we did my kind of like 40 years in gaming stuff. But what's Eternal Strands, and what are your thoughts on the game?
Sure, yeah, so Eternal Strands is a third-person action-adventure video game. It comes from Mike Laidlaw, formerly of BioWare, now at Yellow Brick Games. It is their debut video game, their freshman effort, and it is about a group of what's called Weavers, or a Weavers band, which are, just to kind of summarize real quick here, there used to be like this super magical capital city nation that at some point was thrown into disarray and enveloped in like a barrier of poisonous toxin that keeps everybody out and caused massive destabilization. Magic went haywire, etc. And so Weavers are kind of like these outcasts who are kind of on the road and traveling. You play as... Ooh, this is a problem.
Bryn,
thank you. Do you have it pulled up over there?
I have the Wikipedia, yes.
Cool. So you play as Bryn, who is a point in training. Point means like the person who's going out and finding stuff, doing things, bringing supplies back. And you're just one part of this overall Weaver band that has, due to circumstances, ended up back in this long-lost capital, this ruinous city state that you now are inside of that bubble. And it's a game that's based off of exploration through a couple different areas. That is a little bit Monster Hunter as far as like the big massive creatures that are out there, and the way that you're meets Shadow of the Colossus, and the way that you climb on them, but the way that you break parts off of them is very Monster Hunter. And more importantly is after you do like some of the monsters, let me back up a bit. So you have that going on, and it's kind of like the mystery of what happened to this capital, what happened to the people that lived there, and kind of like just undoing, like peeling away all these layers as you're like pulling at the thread of the narrative as it goes on, as Bryn really comes into her own as a point, and her band, which was a little rougher for wear, ends up growing closer together, and it's just a really cool game. Narratively, it's a very fun adventure. Bryn is a very fun protagonist. She's very positive. Well, your choices. So what the cool thing about Bryn is that you can kind of direct what her kind of personality is going to be based on dialogue choices that you have with your band of party members. Sometimes it can even lead to a little bit of romance. There's a lot of opportunities to just kind of, there's a lot of like fetch questing going on in that I think detracts from the overall game. But the overall narrative and like the monster fighting and combat in the game, whether it's sword and shield, bow, or great sword, there's a lot of variety and kind of options and opportunity, what kind of weapons you want, whether you want. And the great thing about the game is the exploration. Exploring these areas and these environments can lead you to finding different sorts of blueprints for equipment. And so as you're finding more blueprints, you're getting different kinds of equipment. They have different effects and different statuses that they can give you, different bonuses. And you can mix and match them. There's no heavy emphasis on there's no heavy emphasis on like utilizing like everything from the same set. So you can kind of pick and choose as you're unlocking these and grow and like, upgrading them as they carry through. A lot of resource grinding that you can do in the game to kind of like level everything up. Your base camp itself can be leveled up over time throughout the story. By just converting the kind of things that you pick up, converting them into just general quote unquote supply resources with one of your camp members who is in charge of basically resources. And as you upgrade stuff and you go through the story and are able to upgrade more, you kind of become you become a badass throughout this game. The power scaling is just absolutely solid. Whether it's your understanding of the game mechanics getting like more thorough, and your use of the magical abilities as they come through. The cool thing is also the big monsters that you fight, they have like elemental cores that correlate to different magical abilities that you unlock throughout the game. Just awesome stuff. A lot of physics. The physics engine in this game is phenomenal. It's absolutely fantastic. I can't give enough emphasis on the ability to, whether it's freezing somebody solid and then, or like lighting them on fire or things like that. But whether it's the environments as well, like freezing a body of water so you can run across it. But then you also have the part of the story is like there are these kind of environmental control beacons that are malfunctioning. And because you can't predict the weather, sometimes you're going to go into areas that will have like, there will be like a drought modifier to that area this time that you're going in. So so fire spells are going to be incredibly effective. Ice is going to be weaker. And you might see different kind of patterns of enemies around that normally wouldn't be there. Just a lot of opportunities for a lot of really, really cool combinations of creatures in the different environments. I will say this is definitively like an indie game. Like this is a self-published game that Yellow Brick Games is doing. This is, I would say, a AA game. It's not single A indie. This is AA indie. But there is like a lack of overall variety and polish that you'd want to see out of like a AAA game. Mm-hmm. But because of the limited resources that they have, something that happens a lot is there are animated cutscenes they've done for different parts of the game that they're very rare that they show up. One is at the beginning of the game, one's in the middle, and one's towards the end of the game. And there's not a whole, but then there's 3D model cutscenes that are there. But the majority of dialogue and how things are being delivered are through. Yeah, go ahead.
So, what's the difference there between animated cutscene and 3D? Like, are you talking
like cartoon
it's
animation,
animation versus like
the 3D models,
in-game, and in-engine scene? Okay.
So there's in-engine cutscenes and then like drawn animated cutscenes.
Gotcha.
The drawn animated stuff super rare.
Does it add to the game?
In a way, yeah. I think it's interesting because, and this is one of my complaints about the game, is they don't stick to a cutscene style. And then the rest of your dialogue shows up in character portraits with voice dialogue in boxes. So you go to talk to somebody and it pulls you into like a dialogue screen where you have their 3D model.
I mean, like a lot of Persona stuff.
It's very Persona-esque.
Yeah. It's like, I'm talking to this person. I can see their 3D character, but all the conversation we're having is happening in text in front of us, and I'm looking at his character face animation.
I love that because it lets you have a lot of dialogue, and I understand that way you have a lot less 3D modeling you have to do, like animation through like Blender or anything. Mm-hmm. Granted, I think they weren't using Blender; they're using Unreal Engine 5. But the thing that really sells it is, I'm not going to say these are like iconic characters that you encounter, but for like a freshman effort, like a freshman writing effort, like solid. Like the lore of the world is thorough and in depth. Like Mike Laidlaw, that's a specialty of his. And he and his team definitely put on a show as far as like, this feels like a living world that you're in.
So that's what the next question I had for you is, if Mike Laidlaw, as you said, kind of BioWare is, his big bread and butter, and the Mass Effect and Dragon Age kind of golden era of BioWare stuff, where he was a writer on a lot of those projects. This one, he's the director on. Does it have the the script that you would expect from Mike Laidlaw based on those prior games, or is it, as with a lot of the other stuff, kind of cut down, minimized because it's double A, because maybe somebody else is the point person on the writing?
Yes and no. The world writing, the story overall, the character kind of concepts, very much Mike Laidlaw, very much like that high level quality that you would expect from him. There's definitely parts of the game where I'm like, that was a bit of like some like weird dialogue. Not weird so much as in like it's bad, but just like okay.
Does it do the Dragon Age and BioWare thing of like it's a very choose your own adventure kind of thing, or is it like maybe a little bit of like flair in terms of how you respond to a thing, but all roads lead to the same ending?
The latter right there. Yeah, this is not a very like this is not a BioWare game. I'll put it out there like that. Dialogue options will have an impact on like how your camp sees you. The background for Bryn is that she actually used to be part of a different Weaver band and left after like a massive dispute with the point of that leader. Like the point is also the leader of the band. And she has been picked up by very much like in the fallen era of Weaver bands, like a rock star Weaver basically, is her mentor. One of the things I will say is that there's a lot of different races in this game. Like normally you have like one or two beast races or something like that. The animal races in this one are very different. You have a bird one and like a bear one, like a bear, like bears with tusks basically. As well as like some horned ones that also there's also emphasis of like characters that are like half breeds basically. But it's interesting. It's a side quest. I don't want to spoil too much, but different combinations of different races can sometimes cause like unintended qualities or effects based off of that. And it happens to one of your party members pretty severely. I will say that the characters are endearing. There's some great representation with a they them, like a non-binary character who's kind of like your lore archivist character. So when you're out there picking up information, and it's not really, as a player and somebody who's also an analyst in real life, I can kind of pick up what's going on here. But Bryn doesn't know that because Bryn's not me. And so Bryn goes to her analyst, her archivist, and they go through and they can kind of piece together and they help you understand like what all this information probably means. And there's a lot of great like archaeological kind of like digging through, because it's only been like 40, 50 years, like 40 to 60 years since this whole thing happened. So you're not talking about stuff that happened like centuries ago, long ago. Mm-hmm. It's like relatively recent. You're not in like a post-apocalyptic. It's like bad things happened, but people have recovered.
Are there people in the world who basically like fled the city when the stuff happened? Kind of thing?
There's people who are outside of it. So everything happened so quickly that basically this nation state got cut off from the outside world.
Okay, but it's not, and they also have super short lifespans, so people don't remember.
Nope, nothing like that. Okay. People remember a lot. Bryn, because
so it's kind of like a Chernobyl thing of like, hey, it's close enough that people know what happened, what went down. Yeah.
The people who are alive remember how like devastating and terrible it was, but the younger generation really only know the stories. And there's a huge emphasis on like the lost weave, like the Weavers were this established for the Weavering band. This is very much like a place of legend for most of them. Because the oldest member of your band, your mentor, I'm trying to remember her name, but it's not coming to me.
Can't help you on that.
Yep.
The Wikipedia page is very
very very sparse.
Sparse in terms of like story stuff.
Yeah. When it comes to like the characters, so the oldest member of your band was born just before it happened. So everyone is the oldest person in your band is like that in that age range of like 40 to 60. That's it. Like, so like you mentioned, very much a Chernobyl thing.
Okay.
The thing about it is like they'd shared so much magic with the world that the technology, when magic went haywire, like sent other nations into problems. Bryn herself is from like a place that used to not even be its own country, but won a war of liberation and like just before she was born. And so she was born at the tail end of that war. So like this is one of the great things about the lore of the world is that the world just kept going after this thing happened, and people have just been dealing with things the best that they can. But there's a lot of like interesting stuff as you're delving into it, and you kind of like you figure some stuff out. There's some hints early on that like, oh, maybe people survived, like, because the question is like, where did all the people go? Nobody knows what happened to the people inside the bubble. And when you go to these cities, there isn't anybody. There's like definitely like some stuff later on the back half of the game that's like, you clearly wanted like if you had more of a budget, like more of this could have been fleshed out. But because of the constraints, like, I get it. Like you only get like to go to like a couple hub places, and then you have these big areas. They did what they could with the resources, and I think they put together a phenomenal game. Like my review on this game is definitely, this is like a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
I think it's just shy of a 10 out of 10 because of nothing in particular, just a lot of small quality of life grievances that I had that kind of snowballed into the end of the game, where it's just like a lot of the quests you get at the back, like in the back, like very last quarter of the game, are extremely fetch questy. And it became kind of a dull thing to just like, because it used to be like, oh, I'm going to a brand new area, but just stuff to explore. Now I'm going to this area that I've been to a bunch already.
Yeah. Feels more like padding than substance.
Not necessarily. This is why it's still a 9 out of 10 for me, is because not necessarily, but man, does it get if you want to do the side quest, that's when things get super fetch questy at the end. And you're going to these areas and it doesn't have anything to do with the main story. And so you're just there for like a bonus mission, basically. And it can begin and end pretty quickly if you like know where you're going. So it feels pretty fetch questy in the end.
So just to briefly examine this, because like fetch quest being thrown in there as such a like pejorative over the years.
Sure.
Is it like, are you playing and enjoying the game in between? Fetch quest being, okay, you got to go get something and then you got to bring it back. So on the journey there and back, are you engaging in the combat, or are you just having to basically like, oh, I'm going to fast travel this place, pick up the thing, then fast travel back, and basically not engage with the fun parts of the game at all?
Back quarter of the game, that's where I was at.
Oh, okay.
Like, let's get this most efficiently out of the way so I can get back to the good stuff, which is the main story stuff that we have going on.
Gotcha.
The side story that is involved with these quests is interesting, but the actual mission quest of going out and doing it is not.
Okay.
So that's the unfortunate thing about it. That's why I think it's a 9 out of 10. I think that, if they had a AAA budget on this thing, I don't think the game would look the way that it does at all, obviously. But yeah, overall, like, yeah, this is a 9 out of 10 for me. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. One of the best games that I've played this year for sure.
Cool. Last question. In the BioWare spirit of games, you mentioned the cast of characters charming. Is like, do you have a party that you are going out alongside, or
Nope.
is it like just you, but you've got like companions back at camp or something like that?
You got companions back at camp. You have a full-on like Weaver band, which is you have like an enchanter, a blacksmith. They're also a married couple, very cute. Mm-hmm. They also go through some marital difficulties because of like different conflicts of like what one of them wants, and there's communication issues. And you can choose to help them if you want. I don't know what happens if you don't help them. I imagine it doesn't go well. It's like two hyper-focused people who are very good at their craft, who have fallen in love, but now there's opportunity for things to change. And yeah, like it's a very fascinating way of looking at the inter-character dynamics. That's one of the things that makes the characters work so well, is their inter-character dynamics outside of you as the player and Bryn as a character is good. Like, it's solid. Like, the writing for these characters and like their logic patterns, basically, on how they operate mentally, make total sense. At no point in time am I looking at a character and being like, well, that doesn't make any damn sense. Like, there's a point where like one of the characters, doesn't betray you, but like, withhold some information for a period of time. And like, there's problems with that with the band. Mm-hmm. And different people are quicker to forgive than others. Like, there's a whole thing about it. And I think it's excellent as far as like that stuff goes. But the characters themselves, like, you don't spend enough time in those, like, the key points of BioWare character dynamics are in those elevator moments. It's, the best part of having Garrus and
Tally?
No, not Tally. Sorry, Rex. Having Garrus and Rex in Mass Effect 1 in those elevators is because over the course of the game, you see them going from being very hostile to each other to a like Band of Brothers-esque bond between the two of them, where there's banter between the two, but it's like, I can make fun of you and you can make fun of me, but if somebody makes fun of one of us, like the other is going to like I can make fun of my brother, but you can't make fun of my brother, kind of energy that they have about each other.
Yeah.
And that makes, like, when Rex then shows up in Mass Effect 2 and 3 as this leader, Garrus has like these very nice things to say about him, like how impressed he is by Rex. Like, good stuff happens from these moments. You don't get that here. Gotcha. There's no sprinkling of any BioWare magic going on here. It's all very much its own thing, doing its own thing. Mike Laidlaw, though, really hammering out a very cool world. The creatures, the big creatures that you fight, very cool. Like some of them just like, that's an interesting design. Not in like a weird kind of creepy or eldritch way, but like okay. Because sometimes you got to fight a giant statue that's moving around and you have to like break open its joints and bust up some stuff. One of them, you have to like break off its armor points so you can get to the weaker parts of the machinery. Cool stuff is happening, man. It's a really, really cool game. 9 out of 10 for me.
Well, part 2 of the character question. Any banging?
Yes.
There is character banging?
There is character banging.
All right.
No, when I said there's no BioWare magic, there's a little BioWare magic. Right before the final mission, there's the romantic interest comes to your tent that's a little farther away from the rest of the camp. And you do some some snogging and some cuddling and some sex probably.
Alrighty.
They do a classy fade to black. They don't do definitely don't do a Dragon Age where it's like just about all like besides the actual intercourse. They don't do a Mass Effect where there's like big makeouts beforehand. It's very much just like they kiss and then fade to black. And then the emphasis the emphasis was on like they be sexing.
Sure.
So yeah.
All right.
So I was wrong. A little bit about my magic. That good stuff.
All righty. Well, stepping away from that over to Blueprints, the game that came out of nowhere, honestly, for me this week. This game I don't think I'd heard about, or if I'd heard about it, it was like, oh, I heard somebody mention it in, a kind of funny fantasy draft in the background, wasn't really paying any attention to it, knew nothing about this game going into it. I don't think I'd seen any trailers or anything like that.
Jason Schreier's the one that launched this game for a lot of folks because he went on Kind of Funny on their Games Daily one of their podcasts and said, this is my game of the year. This is like a 10 out of 10 video game.
So yeah, I saw like that clip of his review, and I had seen that, he'd been like teasing some posts recently, and people were like, I'm pretty sure he's talking about Blueprints. But he is only one of the throngs of like 10 out of 10 reviews or critics coming out and being like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with this game this week. And so, it's such a rare thing because of how tapped in I feel like I am. And admittedly, it's getting less and less tapped in all the time. But both in like the movie space or in the game space, I absolutely adore when I don't know a thing about a thing before I jump into it. And then I am blown away by it. The most recent example I can come up with was a few years back. There was a movie called Peanut Butter Falcon.
You told me about this.
I knew nothing about it. Joey Noel was like, "Go watch this movie. It's an amazing movie." And I don't know if it was still in the Game Pass or the Movie Pass days, or if it was well after that, and it was just, I'm going to go see this over at Alamo or something like that. But went and treated myself to it, and was blown away by it and loved it. Great movie. Shia LaBeouf, great performance. Shia LaBeouf still is a Shia LaBeouf character, so your mileage may vary, but it worked for me. It was a great
and he's
time.
still Shia LaBeouf in real life,
and it's also problematic. Like if I'm recalling correctly, I believe the other main lead in the film basically has Down syndrome, but wants to be a wrestler. The Peanut Butter Falcon is basically like the wrestling persona that he wants, and so he and Shia LaBeouf's character go on this like odyssey to make his dream of becoming a wrestler come true. It's a beautiful, lovely story.
I have seen it since you told me about it at the time. Incredible film.
Yeah. So Blueprints is very much the same kind of thing. Like I knew going into it, the little snippets I'd seen were puzzle game and roguelike. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting combination. Let's see how that shakes out. And I'd also seen people make suggestions of like, hey, like make a journal. And also the game itself like has some things early on that are like, hey, you might want to like actually jot down notes. So this is my little journal notebook of the game that I've been making, and it's basically like, oh, I've entered. Stepping back before I get into the notes, the premise of the game: you are a kid who has inherited your uncle has passed away, and you've inherited his estate. And this estate can like magically or mechanically or whatever it is, basically gets rebuilt every day. And you can basically design the layout of this house as you walk through it and proceed through it. And that's where the roguelike stuff comes in. But you will only earn this estate if you can find the mysterious 46th room, because the house is basically laid out on a grid of 5 by 9, so 45 rooms, but then there is a mysterious 46th room that's your main quest, is to get to the 46th room. You basically start every day walking into the entrance hall, and then you've got 3 doors, and a door in front of you, a door to the left, and a door to the right, and you basically go to one of those doors and open it, and 3 different floor plans pop up at random based on the random elements of the game, and that's where the roguelite stuff comes in. And you basically say, okay, I want to go ahead and use this room, and basically it builds up, and you walk in, and now you have that room to explore. There might be a puzzle in there, it might just be a pathway, or it might be a dead end, and okay, now I've got but maybe you've gotten a key or a gem or some coins in there that will help you unlock other roads down the line, buy some stuff that will help you kind of on your adventure. In the entrance hall, like on the table in there is like the last will and testament of your uncle that basically sets out the rules of the roguelike. So it's you can't bring anything in, you can't take anything out, and you can't stay there overnight. So your character is basically staying down the hill in a little campsite that you've created. As you go and kind of explore the house, you are limited to like a certain number of steps. Basically, you start out with like 50 steps, and every time you enter a new room, or enter a room, that takes away 1 step. So if you if you just walk back and forth between those first 2 rooms a lot, you will wear yourself out, and your day is done. There are some things that you can pick up later on that'll let you increase your default amount of steps, or there's like an object that if you're running long distances, sometimes you won't lose a step when you enter a new room, kind of thing. So if you're like having to backtrack through the house and you have the running shoes item, hey, maybe you won't lose every single step along the way. Where was I going to go from there?
There's also stuff going on around.
You also like pick up food in rooms and stuff like that, and that'll restore some of your like stamina steps. So basically, you can get steps back too. But yes, there's like a lot of like big meta mysteries of like what's going on with your uncle character, your parents, the grander history of the estate and the region that you are within the estate. So yeah, there are immediate puzzles of like, oh, I've walked into a room and there's the parlor room is one of the early ones that you'll find, one of the common ones you'll kind of repeat throughout the game, and it'll be like, okay, there are 3 chests in here. At least one of them is going to be lying, at least one of them is going to be telling the truth, and there are gems. Your prize is only in one, and you can basically you get a key to open one of those things. So you have to read each of the chests and determine what's lying, what's true, and where the gems are. And each that challenge will get a little bit harder each time. Like the game has a bunch of stuff. So even though you'll leave and reset, there are some things that are progressing along with you throughout the game. And so some things it's like, okay, there's an immediate puzzle and an immediate reward to it. Others, there are like just weird kind of like all-encompassing meta things. Some are like, oh, you'll find a note here and you'll read through it and it'll give you some kind of clue. But then if you go back and read it with like the magnifying glass option, you can find, some small hidden print or something that was like, scratched out. and suddenly that now opens up a whole new way of thinking about this other part of the map, or this other room that I've been to, or this other piece of the puzzle. So yeah, so all that said, when I'm taking notes on stuff, it's like I go into a room and okay, here's the here's a security terminal. It needs a password. All right, I'm going to keep an eye out for what that password might look like. Oh, but here's some like announcements, and here's some general stuff I can access without the password. So I kind of make some notes on like dates and like key names and stuff that will be spitting out. Or if I see like, if I walk into a room and I see like 7 stained glass windows, I kind of jot, and they're ordered, there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Roman numerals in them. Like, okay, that order probably matters. So let me like jot down and take notes of what these stained glass things are depicting. And if I come across a set of 7 statues or something down the line, now I know what order I think I need to interact with them in. And boom, that I've made a note, and 3 hours later, that note I scramble back to and has solved a puzzle that I, in a new room I'm entering for the very first time and stuff like that. I was telling you, there's like one of my favorite little puzzles is just kind of like, there's some, portraits throughout the house, in every room, in every location, that like the portraits themselves kind of stay static. And so when I started recognizing that, I started making this big old like grid of the room with notes on what paintings are in each room, so that I can try and like decipher what big puzzle is happening there. And eventually I did, and it saved me a bunch of time and probably headaches elsewhere down the line. So this is like, it's a game. I haven't done this kind of like note-taking stuff since The Witness.
I was going to ask.
We talked about last week.
Did you do it for what was the little fox?
Tunic.
Tunic.
I didn't do it for Tunic because it gives you kind of the instruction booklet in Tunic as the collectibles.
That's right.
And this, like, if all these pages I was picking up could stay with me and I could just have like a little journal in the game, I would absolutely do that. But the whole premise being like, hey, you can't take anything with you, so when I leave, I can't take that note with me out of the room. It stays in that room. It will be in that room the next time I come back to it. But if I, don't see that room for another, 4 hours, I still want to have some sort of note of what I had learned there, what I had uncovered. There are a handful of things that you can, like permanent unlocks that you can do. Like once you've, completed specific puzzles, you might, there's one I did where it's like, okay, now every day I start with a couple of gems instead of starting with nothing. Or eventually there's an allowance system that gets introduced that you can kind of start building up, and it's like, okay, every morning based on how many allowance points you have, that's how much coins you start with, that's how much money you have that you start with. So you can kind of get that, the improvements that can come along with roguelikes and that ilk. But a lot of this very much is like the bigger things are much more, I've learned, I've deduced and figured out what the safe code is in this room. Okay, that the safe code in that room is always the same. So whenever I go back into that room, I know the code. I can just go pop open that safe and get whatever treasures in that safe. And I don't need to like relearn that or, figure out some new solution for that or something like that. So a lot of the like growth of this roguelike is just the way you're learning about the game, compared to like a Hades, where it's like, you can be, building up your strength or building up, your different resources and improving those kind of elements. This is very much like, I know I'm uncovering a new way to think about this world because I've uncovered a new room.
Yeah.
And even, some of the things, even like after the game, after rolling the credits, I uncovered a whole new set of things deeper and darker to like dig into that I'm jumping in and having a ton of fun with. And it like, some of it is, okay, that's a thing that's been like hidden in plain sight the entire time. But now that I know how to look for it or what to look for, it's this thing that I've, walked by a million times now has an extra bit of meaning, now has an extra bit of oomph to it. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I think so. It's interesting. On Friday afternoon, while I was wrapping up work, I had Kind of Funny's stream of it going on. this was hilarious because it was supposed to be a different game that Mike was going to play, but Mike heard them talking about Blueprint so much, he and Kevin decided to pull an audible and play that instead.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tell you, like, these two got so freaking into it, they got so freaking into it. Although the crazy part is Mike didn't read anything.
Yeah, I didn't not watch that, but I heard in one of their shows that they were going to do that, where like Mike was going to play and Kevin was going to backseat drive, and this is very much more of a Kevin game.
Oh, Kevin was into
game.
it. The thing is, Mike was supposed to record a Gregway,
mm-hmm.
and he's like, I got to stop and record a Gregway, and Kevin's like, you don't have to. Have somebody else do it. and Mike asked everybody else to do it, and they all said no. And so he's like, Kevin, I have to stop because I have to record this. And Kevin's like, cool, Greg. Like somebody came over and like said, hey, cool, Greg's waiting for the Gregway to do it so he can end his day, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Gregway is like the last thing he has to do before the end of the day. And so like he needed to get it. And Mike's like, what do I do? The Gregway that I got from that is, let me go ahead and double check the time on it, but it's not very long.
Is this, let me see because I saw like the title of it come through or something like that. Yeah, what was this? Mike's quick thoughts on April 10th?
Yes.
Is that one?
That's the one.
Yeah, it looks like 8:53.
8 minutes and 53 seconds, yeah. Oh, you know what? He gave some thoughts on Final Fantasy X. Oh, and some 420 celebration. There you go.
Well, there you go. But yeah, so I'd not watched anybody else play it because this was a game I wanted to kind of go in as blind as I could. And yeah, like this, I'm a sucker for these kinds of puzzle games, and the way that this has like layer upon layer upon layer. Like a lot of it is like, oh, I'll find a date, and I don't know when or where that date's going to be important, but it's probably going to be important, so I'm going to jot down that at somewhere. And yeah, when I find a safe that I haven't unlocked before, I'm going to try a whole bunch of combinations based on like the dates that I've found or something like that. And you know, and then my favorite was like kind of uncovering something and then finding the notes, you know, 3 hours later that would have really tipped me off and been the like, oh, here's actually here's us giving you the solution to that puzzle. And so my favorite bits are like when I find the solution and just kind of deduce it before the game gives me that little slip of paper or something that helped me uncover it. But yeah, it's there's a ton of fun. I've gotten really accustomed to finding a shovel and then just like digging all sorts of holes in the place that because you'll find like little coins or keys or stuff like that. And there are certain types of rooms that you can kind of build earlier in your journey that will kind of have knock-on effects and make some of that stuff better throughout. So loving finding kind of the good combinations of rooms, but then sometimes there is like just RNG just screws you, and it's like, okay, even though I've now beaten the game, quote unquote, I'll go in and there's nothing stopping me from, I got stuck with 3 dead ends in the, in that first section. Usually you're not going to find, it that quickly, but I've definitely had some where I don't even get to like the, third row of stuff. Just because the luck of the draw and stuff. So
yeah, it's based on like the corridors and everything. From my side, it's like, it's a struggle. Like it's really all about like luck of the draw. It reminds me a lot of House on Haunted Hill, which is House on Haunted Hill is a board game that you build the haunted house as you're exploring it, and a lot of times it does have sort of like these like kind of nonsense rooms because that's the one you picked and you flip it over and it doesn't really work out. It's like it's a dead end room in the middle of the house. And so like you have a lot of these gaps that are going to be there because of it. So I was always looking as people were playing it. Like I was working at the time, so I wasn't paying too much attention. It was just mostly just hearing like Mike and Kevin get excited about stuff, and that kept me in a good mood.
Yeah.
But I downloaded it. I have it. I'm ready to hop into it at any point.
I'll be very curious, because I know like one of your big reservations about the next game we're talking about, Split Fiction, was you were concerned that it was going to be a little bit more puzzle focused, or It Takes Two. You think is a more puzzly game than it really is. And so like your aversion to puzzles, I'll be very curious to see, because the thing I mentioned to you earlier is like it's a roguelike, but it's a very chill roguelike because
That's why
there's
I would
no
just-
like there's no time pressure or anything like that. You can spend as much time as you want in a room thinking about and trying to solve the puzzle, or you know, or you leave and then you come back later and whatever. Eventually you can start kind of finding the library that you know is tracking you know how your longest time, your longest run, your average run. My average run is probably about an hour at this point. For anybody curious who has been playing, I made it to room 46 on my 34th day.
Oh, nice.
When all was said and done. And yeah, I played another handful of days today, so I'm up in the 40s now, I think.
One of the reasons why I really wanted to hop into this one, though, is because it's that chill aspect about it, but also,
I have no doubt you will dig super into the lore, and like you will glom on to every little bit, like nook and cranny that you can find.
Oh, for sure. But another thing about it also, for me in particular, is when I was working at the university that I worked at as a digital comms person, one of the things that my team used to go out and do is we do escape rooms. We did it a couple of times. There's a really cool escape room business out at Tempe Marketplace that honestly, you and I, maybe we get some folks we know together and we have some fun with that. Maybe next time somebody's in town.
I'm okay. Just kind of like, I don't really want to do the actual IRL escape room. I really liked Escape Room Academy a couple years ago, the game that was like a series of escape room things. That was a ton of fun, but I don't really need the like the stress of, all right, we've got an hour to figure out this whole thing.
I stabbed an evil priest in the heart with a knife. It was pretty cool. That being said, flipping back over to what I was saying though, is like, I miss that.
Yeah, this absolutely has those like Escape Academy vibes to it.
Yeah, when I saw this, I was like, it's like a whole house of a bunch of escape rooms, and that like because the puzzles of an escape room of like go here to find this here and like all this sort of stuff, or like okay, what's the math about this and everything like that to me is fascinating. I love that aspect, the pattern recognition, all that stuff. It's firing all off on my OCD. Like it's tingling my OCD in the best way possible from what I saw. So I'm like, I'm super into, I want to get into it. I'm in the middle of playing Avowed right now. Don't want to share any thoughts on that because I'm still super early in on that game, but like that's where my kind of gaming focus is. If it's not that, then I'm playing Marvel Rivals. So
yeah. In terms of kind of overall thoughts, I echo Jason Schreier. This is a 10 out of 10 game for me. And again, like I love that this came out of nowhere and has blown me away. Absolute blast, ton of fun with it, and still, again, so much more to uncover. There are still rooms that I've not built in the house. I've uncovered a lot of rooms, but even that, like you will, as you kind of like scour the grounds and stuff like that, you will like find secret rooms not in the house and stuff like that. So you like there are just even more things to explore. And I love it. It's been a ton of fun, and it gives you a huge hit of dopamine when you do solve one of those puzzles or have one of those like aha moment kind of things. And yeah, it like I saw that it was on Game Pass, so when people were gushing about it, I was like, okay, maybe I'll like re-up my Game Pass subscription so I can jump into Avowed, South of Midnight. But then it was also on PS Plus Extra or Premium or whatever it was this month. So I was like, well, I already have that one, so yeah, I'm gonna play it there. And yeah, I've popped now 3 trophies. One for the inheritance, one for building a complete room, basically getting a house of all 45 rooms, and then one other one that's like related to a specific puzzle room that I don't want to say, because even that could be like a spoilery kind of thing. So, but yeah, a ton of fun with this game, and can't wait to just jump back into it and keep playing it some more because it's a lot of fun. There are definitely some trophies that I'm like, I'm never going to get that, because there are trophies like make it to room 46 in 1 hour. I mean, like, I guess the easier version of that is make it to room 46 in 1 day. There is a trophy for that, and I imagine that is basically like, okay, yep, you got to start a new game and just try and make it to the end all in a single day. But then, yeah, the even harder extreme version of that is, okay, now do that all in 1 hour. per PSN profiles, I don't think anybody's done that yet. But yeah, or not PSN profiles. The trophy records all being 0.0%. I can't imagine anybody's actually knocked those ones off yet. But yeah, Blueprints, very much fun. And it is a charming little play on words there with, an architectural blueprint versus the titular blueprints. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for me from that. With that all said, let's jump over to Split Fiction.
Yeah.
As I said, this is a game Cameron and I have been playing. So I'll probably start getting the Let's Plays for this out this week. We've done 3 sessions so far. We did like kind of our first session was like a big supercharged, like 4 hours. And it's basically like the first 2 chapters of the game. And then parts 2 and 3 that we've recorded have been like 1 chapter apiece. I'm playing as Mio. Cameron is playing as Zoe. Yeah, if you watched or knew It Takes Two, if you watched our Let's Play of It Takes Two with me and Logan, it is very much that same kind of game style, gameplay, split screen, each of us controlling our own characters, but having to work tandem to do a lot of challenges. A lot of times we'll just have slightly different abilities, and so we have to combine those forces to solve some puzzles or do some platforming and stuff like that. So I'm largely in very familiar territory, but this is your first time playing through one of these games, Cam. So what are your thoughts so far on Split Fiction?
I freaking love this game. This game rules. It rules so hard. It will have to massively screw itself up not to be at a 10 out of 10 for me. Like, I am digging this game so hard.
The thing I keep seeing from people, which just makes me think it's going to get even better for you, is everybody being like, oh my God, that last level
that's what
hours,
I saw that
so
too.
hype kind of thing.
Yeah, and people are like, it lives up to it. It's like, I don't even know what this is. I'm just excited to get through more of this game. The fun I've had playing with you in this game has been phenomenal. It's funny because we've definitely both played enough video games that there's a lot of stuff that like I'm sure other people had to talk through that you and I are just like
we are just kind of like I know what I need to do here.
Yep.
Not like nonverbal communication. We just kind of start doing it.
Yeah.
And I thought about that especially last night when we were playing, where I'm like, oh yeah, like I could exactly be saying what I'm doing right now, but like Cameron can also see what I'm doing because he can, you can look at the left side of the screen and see what I'm doing, and vice versa. And so yeah, there are definitely moments where it's like, oh yeah, we just kind of go on our own path and do what we need to do, or if one of us goes off the beaten path, we realize it and then we come join the other one and kind of progress forward.
There's a couple of instances where we split off from each other pretty heavily, and then it's just like one of us goes, "Oh no," and like comes back to it.
Yeah.
It's
usually like, all right, one of us is looking for the side story because we're probably around one. Oh, you found it? Okay, I'm going to come back.
Yep.
I was accidentally progressing in the level. Let me come back and do the side story.
There's stuff like that. It's like there's only been a couple of them, and actually there was like 2 of them last night where it's like, hold on a second, let's stop doing the kind of like mind share thing and actually plan this out. And like those ones have been fun. I was worried I'd start to feel stressful because like you were waiting on me for one of them. I'm like, we talked it out, and I was like, I'm gonna do it here, I'm gonna do it here, and I'm gonna do it here, and you're like, okay. Yeah. And we did it. We got in one go at that point, and that's like cool.
Like even those ones, like because there were 2 in like that dragon puzzle thing that we were doing, whereas like the first one was having to get the ball down the paths, and then that one like of phantom platforms, whatever. And both of those felt like they are not optimally timed for the amount of nonsense you're having to do in those. So it's like we were really like, I was never blaming you for not getting through it quick enough. It was, I'm blaming the game for not giving us the time that it should be giving us. Which it's very much the opposite of the Blueprints kind of feeling where I'm having I'm never stressed about a ticking clock in Blueprints versus this. I'm like, okay, yep, we clearly only have a split second to get this right. So, all right, we're going to time it out. You're going to, on 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, you're triggered your thing. Now I'm going to go do my thing. And okay, we got it.
The other one was like, I did not communicate to you clearly enough about the levers. Because we did that thing where we ended up going back and forth a couple of times on the lever platform trying to get to the side story.
Yeah.
And that one was just like, we're kind of not trying to communicate at this point, and we just need to, so we had to do that.
Yeah.
That was like, I think one of the best parts about this game is that because we both played so many video games, a lot of it's just intuitive. Yeah. And it's like, there's no, I got to do this here. We got to do that. Like I've seen other people, like clips of other people talking their way through that game. And it's just like, there's periods of the game where you and I aren't talking, but guess what? There's enough story going on. People probably are going to hear more of the story out of ours than they do in other people's Let's Plays.
Sure.
Because people aren't arguing over the game, or because we're not arguing over the game. But, I was a little worried this was going to be an Overcooked thing.
Yeah.
That's always a big worry of mine because I don't like Overcooked because it's too much pressure and anxiety for me. I do not enjoy that. And so coming into this, I was a little worried I was going to have like an Overcooked experience. I'm very glad that we didn't have that we're not having an Overcooked experience. The game is so intuitive, like it's intuitive enough that like, it's also funny because there are some times where it's like, clearly I got the lead over you. Like I'm doing better in an area than you are. Or I'm messing up a bunch and like I'm further behind than you. And it's really, really awesome.
It is like an all or nothing thing. There'll be times where like you're way ahead, and then there'll be other sections where I'm like, I'm just kind of gliding through it and you're dying every 3 seconds. This game is very forgiving with it, because you can die as many times as you want, and as long as one of you's alive, you can respawn and it's okay. And it's good with checkpointing where even if both of us die, we're not losing that much
checkpoints throughout
progress.
this entire game are just stellar.
Which have come in handy for the handful of times the EA servers have just crapped on us, even though we're playing 3 feet apart from each other.
Yep. It's just, it's things like that, or it's like, oh gosh, we died and we had this much of a boss's health left, and it's like, great. And then we come back, it's like,
okay, we're still in the last phase.
Last phase, we're good.
Last quarter of health.
But just absolutely brilliant game design throughout this entire thing. I think this is just a tour de force of game design. Because you're crossing genres, but the fact that they give you a handset, like the set explanation of these are abilities tied to these buttons, and even though these abilities get replaced, you know the button functions that you're working with. There's only been one time where I got confused about some button prompts, and that was R2 and square. And it's because I was just mixing them up. And I just had to mentally correct myself. Sometimes I forget, I do this, I have a weird habit of where I'm using inverted controls and halfway through, I'll forget that they're inverted and die. That happens pretty often whenever we're in a long flight section of the game.
When we did the kite portion of the game.
Yeah, that kite portion, I was just having it's a weird, it's something
whereas for me, it was
it's weird.
It wasn't like a controls thing, but I was just like, I don't vibe with this Tony Hawk, vibe kind of level, and was just bad. And it wasn't that I was dying a lot, although I died more than I should have, or more than I feel like I should have. But it was like, I'm not getting the trick combos that I'm, supposed to be getting or whatever, because I don't do those kinds of games. So
I fell right into that. I was just I know exactly what I need to do. I know exactly how I did it, and I don't want to spoil it. People should check out that.
It has a ton of really cool and It Takes Two had some of these, but I think because of the scale of It Takes Two, it wasn't really gunning for this. This is very much more going for big sci-fi action or big fantasy action.
Yeah.
So the set pieces in this game are crazy fun,
incredibly cool, we did this dragon level last night where we recorded the 3rd episode, and it's just so cool. Yeah. Listen, as somebody who's consumed, I'm sure you also made some predictions mentally that ended up coming true on your end of things, but there's a lot of story beats where I'm just like, oh yeah, I think this is happening.
I mean, the story stuff is, I would say, the weakest element, just because it is it's formulaic. It is weak by comparison to how astounding the gameplay is, and
it's not a bad story though.
It Takes Two is the same kind of thing. I would say it's very tropey, and it's you're able to make predictions because it's following the playbook that, the character said this one thing, I bet it really means this thing. Yep, that's exactly what it meant. So It Takes Two is the same kind of thing where it's the story is like, a 6 or 7 out of 10, and so it feels weaker or simpler, like when thrust against the 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 gameplay stuff that we're doing kind of all the time. So that's my biggest gripe, is that I would have hoped that they would have learned some lessons from It Takes Two, and I kind of feel like they didn't. They traded in some things, like they traded in the dysfunctional married couple for dysfunctional odd couple writers kind of thing, and it's still very like heavy on stereotypes and the tropes of kind of where each of these characters are coming from, in a way that I wish had a little bit more nuance and a little bit more subtlety. But yeah, it's even that still fine. I mean, like the biggest grievance on that is like the big bad, who's literally named Raider.
Raider. He's but also it's like
and is just an incredibly one-dimensional bad guy.
Well, he's basically any like Silicon Valley billionaire, right? Like it's very much that. Like what's the stereotype and trope for a Silicon Valley billionaire? That's it. Okay, that's what he is.
Yeah.
He sucks. Like you're supposed to hate him. It's good. The story is formulaic and very straightforward. You're not going to get surprised by it, and it really is about the gameplay experience.
There have been a couple surprises, just in terms of like, the story we're in, i.e., the chapter we're doing, zigged when it could have, or like, and or the sub stories. There are definitely some wild twists and turns in the sub stories, where it's like, oh, look at how bright and colorful this is, and by the end, it's a freaking horror show.
Yeah.
But yeah, in one of the stories in particular, I was like, oh, here's a giant thing, and the first time I see it, I'm like leaning into all the tropes and being like, oh, we're gonna fight that thing, and then that's not how that played out. So I there have been a couple times, like story-wise, where the game has surprised me in fun and interesting ways. But yeah, just not typically with like the character stuff thus far. We're only about halfway through probably, so the game may still find time to surprise me. But other than that, it kind of feels like it's going through the motions for what I would expect of these things. But yeah, the game plays a ton of fun. One other thing I'll throw out there, just in terms of something that I really enjoyed about the It Takes Two experience, and maybe this was like because Logan and I kind of jumped off and did a bunch of these, was like It Takes Two had a lot more like just little side things you could do in an area.
Yeah.
That were like, it'd be like, oh, we're going to just jump over here and play a game of tug of war for a little bit. Or we're going to jump over here onto this chessboard and play a little bit of chess. And so it had like a lot of little mini games that didn't really feed into the story or anything like that, but they were just a fun little diversion to do. This, like, it feels like this game has largely replaced those elements with the side stories. Which, yeah, I guess that like, especially the trick, one that we were talking about, snowboarding is one.
I can see that then,
earlier, was kind of one of those things, I guess. And I'm sure if we jump back into the main menu of the game, that would probably be unlocked now as like a mini game that we could just jump in and do at will. But yeah, I feel like there was more of that just kind of like in the world in It Takes Two. And that was a thing I liked. It was just like a little like, oh, I liked these as like little diversions. And I feel like there's only been like one or two of those in kind of the bigger stuff. And I can't even remember what, like there was one last night that we did. But even that has like kind of escaped me. Yeah, but it's still fun.
It's a fantastic game. We're having a blast playing it. We'll have more thoughts when we finish the game, obviously.
Yeah. Lots of fun little Easter eggs and stuff.
So many fun.
Both
Easter
for
eggs.
like video game Easter eggs, fantasy Easter eggs, sci-fi Easter eggs, movies, video games, TV, all that kind of stuff. We lit a bonfire, and I was like, "That's Cam's, in heaven right now."
That was so fun. When we discovered the bonfire, I was like, "Let's go!" Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, shout out to Split Fiction and the fun we're having with that one. As I said, stay tuned because I'll be working to get those uploaded and released this week. Probably go back to our old Tuesday and Thursday release schedule on those. So expect the first big old chunky 4-hour episode to drop on Tuesday. Actually, I think that one, I think I've already got uploaded. I was just holding it back until everything else was, or until we had a couple more in the
can
to go. So,
Yep.
Stay tuned for more of our thoughts on Split Fiction. I imagine we'll probably try and finish it up this week, so we'll probably have finished thoughts on the game for next week's episode. All right, well, that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to chat all the fun games we've been playing. Let's go around our metaphorical table with any plugs we might have. You can follow Cameron at revcabot.bsky.social. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
I want to give a massive shout out to obviously our That D Plus show. We just did an episode on not just a goof. Not just a goof. There we go. I was like, I'm missing a word here. Yeah, not just a goof. A documentary about a Goofy movie and its production that came out to celebrate the anniversary of a Goofy movie. Trevor and I gushed over it. We had a fantastic time with it. If you've seen the documentary, you want to hear our thoughts on it, go check that out.
Yep. Indeed. It was a nice, fun, full circle moment doing, because the very first episode of that D Plus show was on a Goofy movie. So kind of jumping into this 30th anniversary documentary on it was a lot of fun. It had a lot of cool stuff in it just as well. If you haven't seen the movie itself and love a Goofy movie, definitely go check out Not Just a Goof, because they have like a whole bunch of behind the scenes stuff that was like video VHS and high 8 tapes recorded 30 years ago that like just kind of sat in a bin for a long time and have only been like recently resurfaced and whatnot. So ton of fun there. And I will echo shouting that out. And then, as I said, check out our upcoming Split Fiction series. But also in the Not Just a Goof D Plus show, we did mention at the end that we will be winding down kind of our podcast output in the weeks and months ahead. No firm hard dates or anything like that, but just kind of making that as a public announcement at this point that we will be kind of starting to wind things down. This is episode 250 of this particular podcast, that D Plus show. Because of like the Mondays that we've taken off and stuff like that, that D Plus show got up ahead, and I think that was episode 261. But 250 episodes of both those podcasts, a good 5-year plus run that we've had with them. But yeah, just kind of looking for new change of pace, new adventures, and kind of winding down the podcasts. The website will be up for the foreseeable future, and even the podcasts, like the feeds aren't going to go away anytime soon. And the YouTube version, the feeds will always be there. Stay tuned for kind of more information on that, but just kind of putting it out there that there is kind of a, an end coming to That Nerdy Site podcast spectrum. And it is a kind of thing I'm like, yeah, even if we were, stop doing the podcast in, the next few months, I'm sure as long as I'm, continuing to pay for the website and stuff, I'm sure I can always bring it back for, Game of the Year stuff come the end of the year. So,
yeah, it's also a thing about it. Like Trevor and I have been doing this for so many years, even before That Nerdy Site. And so it's, you've been doing something for 10 years, and sometimes it's like, hey, maybe a different pace of things, maybe a different tone. Who's to say that this is like you never know. You never know what's going to happen down the line. But when it comes to the podcast and the way that we've kind of been doing at the very smallest, like most like basic stuff here, like the easiest way to put it is a change is coming. What that change fully looks like, we don't even know yet. Yeah. We have an idea of what we want it to look like and how we want things to kind of like, there's a reason why we're using the term winding things down. We're not sunsetting. We're not, shutting off the lights. It's not like a big, like we're gone forever. We're both going to be, who know, we don't know what the future brings, but we do know that, guys, we're tired.
I'm 40.
Trevor's 40. I'm 35. We've been doing this for so many years, and
this is something I've been. I kind of told Cameron at the beginning of the year that this was that I was planning on kind of winding things down.
Well, you told me back in like
was it late last year?
It was late last year. It was like end of October, beginning of November.
Okay, I forgot when.
It's okay. It's been on my mind.
I have no doubt, and because it's been like a oh, I've been, thinking about winding down for probably a year or plus now.
Yeah, I mean, when we talked about maybe like you started mentioning that you might be done with things a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah, back before you even moved.
Yeah, before I even moved in. Me moving in, like, breathe a breath of fresh air into everything, and that helped. But
I mean the 40 years of gaming project was very much kind of done in tandem as like this is going to be like my last big hurrah. Last big project I'm doing, and it was I'm turning 40. Let me do a big look back at gaming and kind of get one last good written thing out there that I can put up on the site and be, happy and proud with. And I absolutely am. I just don't like, it's much like, we stopped doing written reviews back during the pandemic kind of stuff because I just didn't have the, interest in doing them anymore. Yeah. With the exception of like the, annual write-ups for Game of the Year, Movie of the Year, whatever of the year thing, Lego of the year, whatever best of stuff. That's pretty much been the extent of the written output, and everything just kind of turned into podcasts or Let's Plays. And obviously, kind of let the Let's Plays lapse. Last year we're bringing it back a little bit here for Split Fiction, but even that's like a limited run thing. And it was like, hey, we're going to be playing it anyway. Might as well see if we want to just go ahead and record it.
And like, that might also be a thing in the future. Like this is the whole thing. Yeah. Content creation's a passion of both of ours, but we are both. I mean, I don't know about Trevor. I'm telling you right now, I've gotten real. Like I did content creation for a year and a half as my full-time job, plus the thing that I do with That Nerdy Site. I did some math, and I'm like, I've pumped out literally hundreds upon hundreds of hours of content, and I'm not going to stop making content for forever, but. Guys, we got to take a break. Like you might.
This will be like I'm winding us down because I don't want to get burnt out again.
Yeah.
As somebody who got burnt out twice in my Trevor Trove days, once from the written stuff and then once again from like video stuff, it very much is like like
the signs, you see what's coming.
Yeah. It's I kind of want to just go back to just playing games and enjoying them. It's fun to have, an outlet and come here and gush about blueprints, but it's also, I'm not saying anything that like you can't find 100 other places on the internet in 100 other podcasts.
When we started That Nerdy Site, I feel like there wasn't, the thing is in the last 5-6 years, games discourse has gotten so diverse, much more diverse. There's been so many more new voices. There's voices that have been around for a while that have like evolved and matured in a lot of ways. And when Trevor and I look at each other, it's like, I'm not, I can sometimes lend a lens as somebody who's, not straight in kind of like the queer aspect of some stuff, but are we adding really much more to the discourse or are we just adding more noise?
I don't think we're adding noise so much because I would say like we are at least thoughtful in
absolutely
the correspondence we have and whatnot. But yeah, I mean at the same time, how it's. I mean even back when we launched, it was we don't really need another podcast with just a couple white guys, but that's what we had and what where we're
at now for sure. So
we're gonna be winding down here. No hard and firm dates or anything like that. But if we if we aren't as regular in terms of like, every week, there's probably an element of that to it. I'm giving us the permission a little bit more to like, hey, like, especially with That Deep Plus show, there's nothing new we want to talk about this week. All right, we're not going to talk about anything. This week, obviously, we have Daredevil. We also still have, like, Doctor Who that also came out this week that I just realized.
There's Andor season
coming.
2.
So we got ample stuff we're going to want to talk about on after a few weeks there of, like, I guess we'll do a Nora or, here, like, good thing we've got Hulu now in there. Now we're definitely like in it hitting a period of riches.
This is definitely like we're winding down. By the way, you're gonna get so much damn content from us.
But it's also back when we talked about on this show like Brave New World. Yeah, maybe we'll do a That D Plus show on it. Maybe we won't. It was kind of knowing, we're going to be winding down the podcast. So yeah, we don't have to do a That D Plus show on Brave New World when that comes out. So anyway, so yeah, that's kind of the big announcement here.
Also, if you guys want us to hear us from something, tell us then.
Huh?
Yeah, if you want to hear us talk about something and we're not talking about it, tell us. There you go.
I mean, I don't.
Onus on you.
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say don't bother because I'm not gonna listen or care that much because
There you go.
this is still going to end, and I'm still.
Oh, sure.
I'm not,
No,
I'm not gonna like hold this out just because somebody wants us to talk about X, Y, and Z.
Sure, I'm sorry. I should have. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I meant though is
if you want to talk to Cameron about stuff,
Yeah.
feel free to invite him on other things. He's nowhere near ready to end podcasting.
I'm ready to take a break for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
I am for sure like I'm ready to take a break for sure.
Yeah.
I the last time I got to this point of where I feel about stuff was when I decided, hey, I'm just gonna close Naughty Gamers. I just made that decision. Like life was at a really rough point at that point, and life's in a really rough point right now. And I could probably use a break from content creation.
Yeah.
I probably should have took a break a while ago when I was burnt out before, but here we are.
Anyway, you can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site for, again, still the foreseeable future, or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please remember to rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for listening. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.